Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish in all the major podcast and social media platforms. And of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. Bree, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
No, yeah, it's an honor. I know you're busy hustling, trying to get the word out about your music, yes. Right? So we're here in Nashville at a songwriters retreat called Ari Retreat. How'd you get involved with this?
I hired a coach a few months ago to help me organize my music for sync licensing deals. And she suggested that I meet Matthew, the founder of the event.
Okay.
And when I had my first conversation with him, this was an absolute no-brainer. He's such an incredible, amazing soul and so inspired in his own life to help artists achieve what they're setting out to achieve. And so I decided to say yes and come. And I have to say, I've been to a lot of events, conferences of all kinds. This is one of the best events I've ever been to in my life.
Sync licensing. So I've heard that term. I'm not a musician. I guess could you just describe that in 30 seconds? I think it has to do with like film and television.
Yes, it's creating music that gets placed in commercials, like TV ads, Super Bowl commercials, or programs that you watch on TV. So if you have a favorite TV show, if you've ever listened to the music that's played during one of those episodes, that's music that some artist has created and it got placed, or films, different movies. Yeah.
Is it something that if you have intention of doing it for that purpose, is that a different process than if you wrote just a song about heartbreak?
Well, I am definitely learning about this industry right now. And it seems that there are some people who only create music for sync licensing. And they fit a certain style of licensing that they go after. But then there's also artists who are independent who could just create amazing songs that then get used for sync licensing. Yeah.
And you're relatively new to to musicianship, I guess. Is that like, what's your story?
Yeah, music has always been a part of my life. It's played a huge role. I basically grew up listening to Mariah Carey and Celine Dion and Christina Aguilera, all such amazing, incredible women. And I love to sing. I sang in church. And it's been a dream of mine to be an artist. And I really never had the courage to step into it. It's very vulnerable putting your creations out. So about a year ago, I decided I was going to take the leap. I started writing songs 4 years ago. I have over 60 songs written. I have my first 2 albums done.
Jeez.
And so I'm just ready to release it and see who resonates with it.
How do you explain the sort of the flood of creativity?
Oh, it's a rush.
Or have you written all through the years, or is it just like in the last few years?
Just in the last few years. Wow. Literally 4 years ago, I wrote my first song. It's going to be released in a few months.
Yeah, how do you explain that?
For me, I have never actually sat down with the intention of writing a song. Typically, I call it channeling. They just come to me. And a lot of times the lyrics will come through first, and sometimes I'll hear the melody, and other times I won't hear anything at all. It'll just be the lyrics. And it usually takes me just a few minutes to write the majority of the lyrics, and then I'll go back and revisit it. Or I get songs started, and I put them in a parking lot until I'm ready to go back and finish them.
All right. Well, good for you. Congratulations. So what's the plan with the music that you have finished? Is it singles, albums? Like what's that plan?
Yeah, I'll be releasing several singles over the next 5-6 months. And then I'll put out the full album for everyone to go and listen to. And then I'll start releasing the singles for my second album. So, yeah.
And how do you explain or describe who you are? Or the genre or the style, like what's the best description of that?
There was another artist here, and she said, I'm genre fluid, and I'm going to accept that as my style too, because I have a lot of different creative ideas in my head. I can do soft angelic tones. You know, I can do R&B, I can do neo soul, but I also love to rap. And so that's a fun vibe for me to get in on. So
that's amazing. That's interesting. But what were you doing before the music?
Yeah, thank you. I was actually teaching meditation before. I used to throw meditation and music events, and I used to teach corporate wellness, and so really just helping people live a balanced life in whatever life they're creating for themselves.
Okay. Well, the music industry, again, I'm not a musician. Talk to a fair amount of musicians. It doesn't set itself up for a lifestyle of peace and harmony, right? Because
it's a lot of hustle.
A lot of hustle. It's not just late nights and gigs. It's social media. It's marketing. It's merchandise. It's touring. It's booking. It's all the things. So, like, how are you going to, like, incorporate that mindset into this new journey that you're on?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I think it's important that no matter what career path we take in life, that we give ourselves the time to recharge and to stay balanced. That's so important, both with mental health, with physical health, with emotional health, because without those, we're not showing up as the best version of ourselves on a daily basis. And so in my single release in June, if you listen to some of the lyrics very closely, part of that song says, "This connection I download on the daily." And that's because I get up and I meditate every morning. It's not a question. It happens for at least 10 minutes of every start of my day. Why? Because that's what I need to recharge me. And that's another part of the song is I know how to recharge me. I get into nature. I'm an absolute lover of nature, avid hiker, and that's another way I recharge me. So what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me, and that's okay. But find the things that do and make space and time for them in your life, because it's important if you're going to create a life you love living. Okay.
And the song you referenced is called Eyes on Me. Is that
Eyes
right?
on Me, yes.
And it's spelled EYE, capital Z, lowercase z.
Yes, I have a thing for Z's, and I like to play creatively with words. So,
all right, as a journalist, it's really hard for me to.
I'm sorry.
just to see that word, but it's cool. All right, Eyes on Me. All right, so that's good. So the lyrics, like, with your background and that mindset, you're trying to inspire whoever listens to carry that forward.
Yeah, I talk a lot about my own spiritual journey, some of the experiences I've had walking the path of spirituality. And most of my songs and my lyrics are pretty conscious based, high vibe, feel good, very inspirational.
Okay. All right, so I have a question. So I grew up in the church in the buckle of the Bible Belt, and there's a lot of things I still hold dear about that. Not a lot of regrets, but a few. But I know that the mindset of a lot of people in the church is meditation, yoga. The whole idea of like self-wellness and self-care is a little bit out there and a little bit, whatever, fluffy, if you will.
Woo-woo.
Yeah, woo-woo. Exactly. Yeah. So,
hello, woo-woo.
Yeah. What was that transition like? And you may still have faith and stuff, but that's kind of a different thing. It's similar, but it's different. I guess explain that.
Yeah, totally. I grew up in the church as well. I grew up in the Pentecostal church, so I can relate to your Bible Belt for sure.
Okay, we have so much to talk about.
Yes, we do. This was definitely a total transition in my life, and I went through a whole battle of who God is for me during, I would say, probably it was like a 4 or 5 year period of time. At first I went against religion and kind of went against the whole church thing while I was trying to find myself and find what is the meaning of God and who is God and who is, and everything I had been taught. And I also teach neurological reprogramming. So undoing your belief systems and recreating, big, like I look at it as a computer where we can control, alt, delete what we don't want, and we can upload new software. And so I went through some anger. I went through some disassociation. I went through, and this has actually been a topic of conversation among my own family because they are very much in the church. And I find God on top of the mountain when I go hiking and we sit and we commune on a very deep, intimate level. And I believe God is within all of us. It's just about tapping in to having that relationship with God.
Right.
Source, spirit.
Right. Right.
Yeah, there's multiple names.
Yeah, they hate those words, by the way.
No, and I don't know why. I keep having this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's the divine. I mean, our creator.
Yeah.
I don't think God is like this man standing up there with a big staff coming down with a lightning bolt, but that's just me. Because when you look around at all the beauty that exists,
right.
like, wow, we're so blessed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have a Pentecostal story real quick.
Oh, let's hear it.
I was 9. One of my older sisters went to a college in Springfield, Missouri, which is the headquarters of the Assemblies of God Church. Okay, right? Yeah. So literally in like ground zero. And I went down there, and I'm old. So I was like 9 years old in the early 80s. And Beat Street and all the breakdancing movies were coming out. Oh, and as sad as it sounds for me to say this out loud, like I thought I could break dance. So I showed up, to visit my sister, and I would dance, and you couldn't dance on campus. Oh, like that was the rule. Uh-oh. Right? And I wasn't a student; I was only 9 years old. But like they shut that stuff down. Oh wow! And I was always like, "Oh, Jason, you should dance." I'm like, "No." Then I would do it, and then everybody would like run, and it was just like the weirdest thing. Right. It's like. It was just I'll never forget that, you know. And then the speaking in tongues and stuff is also kind of a thing. So anyway, but no judgment. It's just everybody's got their own journey. Right. But it's interesting that you've experienced that and have now kind of come out of that and are on a different path now.
Yeah, and come to my acceptance of God, and also my acceptance of where everyone is in their own walk, because if going to church and going to a building is what helps you get through the craziness of the world, awesome. Yeah. And if hiking a mountain and sitting up there and looking down on creation and going, thank you, God, for this incredible opportunity to be a human on this planet at this time, awesome. Right. Yeah. So that's where I'm at personally. But also just say, forgive yourself for all that stuff too, because there's a lot of baggage that can come with the heaviness of anger, and it's not worth it, right?
Yeah, resentment, anger, all the things. Okay. Well, speaking of hiking and mountains, you don't live in the States. You live in Costa Rica.
I do.
So what's the music industry like in Costa Rica?
It's almost, I don't want to say non-existent, but it's definitely not what it is here in the United States. I can tell you that. No, Costa Rica, first of all, is just such a beautiful country. I moved there for the nature and the hiking. And I love to go to the waterfalls or, walk miles on the beach. I like long walks on the beach, literally. But the music is, for native Costa Rica, it's very different. It's very different style. I love listening to the locals when they are playing, at an event or something. The indigenous people are just so talented and such an untapped market in terms of people actually hearing the medicine they bring to the world. A lot of Spanish. Okay. So, gotta know a little bit of feet movement for that.
Right. Okay. Well, as you're kind of launching into this whole music thing, have you thought about the pros and cons of kind of being based there versus somewhere like here, like Nashville, or do you think it doesn't matter?
Well, I gotta tell you, wherever I am, and I just got back from a 3-month stint in Brazil, which was incredibly amazing, and their music scene is popping over there. They got every style and genre, and you go on every corner and there's something going on with live music. So wherever I am, nature is a very big component of how I make decisions of where I live, because I just personally can't go without being in nature or having the ability to hike or go to a waterfall or the beach. I don't know about coming back to the United States.
Not in the cards,
After living out of the U.S., it's been such a beautiful experience that now coming back in, I love to visit, and I love my family and friends here and pop in and out. But there's a whole big world out there.
Yeah, no, I get it. Well, but from a career standpoint, if you're going to like double down on the music, do you think that's going to limit your opportunities, or will you just kind of like see how it goes?
Yeah, I don't think so. Actually, my first release, I've had great success in Africa. So I've been looking at taking a trip over there, and I've also had great success in Brazil. It was my number 2 on the most listened when I released, and I made a lot of contacts while I was there, and they were talking about maybe some possibilities of shows and things like that. So I think I don't think any artist should just focus on one area as a whole. Like, why not go globally and worldwide and see who resonates with your music and where, and then decide that.
Okay, good for you. The main theme of what I'm doing with this podcast is this thing called curiosity. So I have a question about that. But before we get there, we were talking before, and it feels like a theme for you is perspective.
Yes.
So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, very much so. In fact, it's so important. I actually got this amazing tattoo here.
Oh, cool. All right. Nice.
It says perspective
on
it. It's upside down. I believe that everything we go through in life is not so much about what's happening to us, but about the perspective in which we're viewing what's happening to us. And the amazing thing about the human brain that we get blessed to carry around is that we get to choose what perspective, what lens we're looking through. At any given moment, we can change that lens, and it's different. And so I battled with a 2-year stint of suicidal depression.
Oh, wow.
Where almost every day I wanted to give up.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Wow. That's a long journey.
Yeah.
And after I came through that and got the help that I needed, I got therapy, I did a lot of soul searching and investment in myself, I never want to be in that place again. And so I made the decision to choose a happy life. And no matter what's happening externally, internally is what I can control. And I wake up every day in gratitude, and I just choose to be happy. I still have problems. Life is still crazy. It's chaotic at times. It's like, what the heck is happening? But if you want, I can just share a short analogy that I like to give. I have a whole YouTube video on this, but I like to look at life as a blimp.
Okay.
And if you imagine you're in a football stadium and there's a game going on, if you're the quarterback on the field, you're going to see from one perspective. But if you're the coach on the sidelines, you get to see the whole field from a different perspective. But if you're in the stands or you're in the coaching box up at the top, now you get to see an even bigger perspective. What happens if you go up into that blimp? You're seeing how the football stadium actually fits into the rest of the city, right? So at any moment, we could be the player on the field, the coach on the sidelines, coach up or a fan, or in the blimp. And that's really how I look at perspective. Okay.
And you were saying also that at any moment, you're able to change the perspective.
You can shift.
Yeah. So if you talk a little bit about when you were kind of in the ditch, mentally and emotionally, what was the perspective there?
Dark. It was really dark. I didn't have hope.
Yeah.
I was in a lot of my own insecurities at the time and really battling my own demons from childhood or traumas, or didn't really know how to handle them, how to manage them on my own. And you feel like a burden. You wake up every day and you don't want to burden other people with what you have going on. And one thing I learned about depression is it actually changes the chemistry of your brain, which is why it's so hard to fight. It's so hard to come out of it without medication or, therapy or whatnot. So good news is, though, the brain and the neural pathways in the brain are made to actually change. Okay. And so you can rewire them and reconstruct them however you want. It just takes some practice and discipline.
It sounds like, and it looks like you're on the backside of that.
Yes.
Right. And music's probably helped that as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's really been a medicine in my own life. Yeah. Some of the artists that I listened to got me through that time and inspired me to go on my own journey now and say, you know what, I want to be an inspiration for others.
All right. Cool. Well, so back to curiosity, I guess. Yeah. At this stage in your life, what are you most curious about?
Oh, that's such a good question. I read so many books. I think the biggest thing I would say that I'm curious about right now and have been for quite some time is the universe. I find it so fascinating what's going on out there in that sky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's expanding at a rate we've never seen before. There's, it's just, there's so much to explore out there. So I love to study it, read about it, and try to understand like a very small part. Yeah.
It's a lot.
It is.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it seems like the last few years there's been more talk about the UFOs and the extraterrestrial activity than ever before. I don't know what that's attributed to, but it seems like that's a big conversation lately.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
Well, that's cool. All right, the universe. Very, very good. All right. So it's we're almost in the end of 2024, going into 2025, I guess. What 2 questions? Where are you at as an artist, and where do you want to be?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So I released my single in June, on June 21st, and I just finished last week recording my next several single releases, and I have 2 albums pretty much done. So I'm really looking forward to releasing those over the next few months. And I think as a new artist, my goodness, there's so much going on that you don't know until you get into it. Yeah. And so right now I'm just really learning a lot and working on creating the lane that I'm playing in. Okay. Because I think as an artist, the beautiful thing about being an artist is we all get to just be who we are and play in whatever lane we want to. And I think that attracts the people that resonate with our vibe. And so right now I'm working on creating that. And who is she? And what does she look like? And how does she show up? And it's a fun process. And it's also scary because it's super vulnerable, you know? Like, will people like me? Oh, wait, that doesn't matter. Get out of your head.
Right. You can overthink that pretty quickly. All right. Well, that's exciting. So all that's great. I guess, do you have time for, personal fulfillment, relationships, dating? Like, how hard is it to date in Costa Rica?
I haven't dated in a few years.
All right. Do you have an ick?
Do I have an ick?
Yeah.
In dating?
Yeah.
Specifically?
And you can't say speaking in tongues. I don't know. I find dating in this environment very interesting. We're also glued to the screen. Yeah. People don't talk anymore. There's no effort being shown on both sides. I feel like there's no appreciation of individuals on both sides. And I hope it changes, I hope we can get back to a little bit more of the interpersonal communication of dating. Yeah. But I also feel like a lot of us become very desperate to just be with a person instead of being with somebody we really enjoy their company. Right. And that's it's easy to settle.
Yeah.
It's no fun, but it's easy to do that.
It's also easy to stay single. Like when you create a life that you really love living and you love waking up to, you're like, man, I don't want anybody to come in here and disturb my peace.
That's a good point too.
I wake up every day really good. So I think we're now competing with 2 very different places, right? The one of like, I'm very happy single and I don't report to anyone, right? Even though that's a belief system, but and I love my life, and how do I integrate someone into what I'm creating and what I have created? And then on the other side, settling. Yeah. And not wanting to be alone for the rest of our lives.
The age-old balance there. All right. Well, cool. Well, Bria, it's such a pleasure to meet you. Good luck with relationships, no relationships, hiking, all the things, and especially your music. Yeah, so you've got a great way about you, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much, Jason. Yeah. This has been a pleasure, and thanks for doing what you're doing and showing up in the ways you are in the world.
Thank you for that too. Yeah. All right. Take care.
Cheers.
Thank you.